you feel that you become a canon? But sometimes I know that by dint of hard work, and maybe growth upon the ministry, though it is the diocesan's prerogative on who becomes a canon, but at the end of the day, your works will speak for you. When you were made canon, what name were you given though on your installation of canon?
St. Francis of Assisi.
What does it connote to you as a person?
Well, it is a practical person, and so when there are times that you think that these things don't have an effect on you, but he does, and I don't know how he chose St. Francis of Assisi for me, but he was someone who dedicated his life to the service of God and to the service of humanity. Very down-to-earth person, and did a lot for God. So I was very glad that, in fact, my wife was also very glad that I was given my patron saint should be St. Francis of Assisi.
Interesting. In this very cathedral that historic installation took place, where you were named the Reverend Canon George KOTEI NEEQUAYE. What will be the high moment of your canonship? That after having made a canon, because definitely if I should talk about your high moments when you were a priest, father, you would probably, like you've indicated, a few of it.
Yeah. But
as a canon, what would be your highest moment that, for this, I think that it came with the period that I was serving as a canon?
Now, when I was employed at the Trinity Theological Seminary to go and teach full-time, the bishop decided that I should look after Dodowa, which is not very far from, it's about an hour drive anyway, but that was where the bishop asked me to look after. And at that time, a lot of the clergy, some say, oh, why should you, a senior priest, be sent to Dodowa, where you are worshiping in the classroom and chairs, etc. But what I told people was that whether it is a village or whatever, wherever you are sent, so far as there are people there, you have been sent to look after these people. And so I went there with an open heart, moved them eventually from the classrooms to a house, somebody's sitting room, but we opened up the sitting room, and it's just like a chapel. And then whilst there, the highest point of my canonship was when I turned 50, and I was asking myself, in fact, we were discussing it together with my wife, what should I do? In fact, somebody had gone ahead of me to rent this place that you have so many functions at Burma Camp. Rented it, and it was very expensive. So I said, what am I going to do there? I wanted a quiet 50th birthday, and he had rented this place. I have to put people there. And then all of a sudden, as we were discussing, it clicked that why don't you raise funds? In fact, you have been to so many big churches. You have been a chaplain at Mountain School. You have been a chaplain in Tema Joint Church. You have been a chaplain in REV'D Church. All the big ones, you have been there. So why don't you use the friends that God has given you as an advantage to build a church for the Dodowa community? And so once the idea was caught, we began preparations towards it. I invited people, but then I wanted the drawing to be done before we actually have the event. The drawings to be done, the quantities, etc. And so I had all that, and then I put it out to all the people that I was inviting. That can someone take all the cement that will go into the building, maybe 2,000 or 5,000 cement that will go into the building. Somebody, how many do you want to take? The pillars, these are the pillars that will go into the building. How many do you want to take? Who is taking the pulpit? Who is taking the altar, etc.? Everything was there, and I sent it to the people. By the time it came back, the church was built. And so on the day of the birthday, we just simply had to say, this person said you will do this, person will say we will do this, person will say we will do this, and then it was over. The money we needed was together. Now, so we put the money into a bank, and then we realized that the building was going to delay a little because of these permits and all those things that you had to go through. So we invested the money. At that time, it was almost 100,000. If you put it together, it's about $80-something thousand. So we put it into investment whilst we were waiting. And by the time, a year later, when everything had gone through, we're ready to build, we had about half of it also added on. And so that also supported with the building. But within 1 year, the building was done, almost about 500-seater chapel was done, because everything was already in place. We were just going to put the things together to build a place. So within a short time, it was built. I told the church itself, they said, what can we do to help? I said, you relax, just take a back seat. I formed a committee that look after the money and look after the building. And I put the people's warden in that place into it, as council member also into that committee, so that they know what is happening. But I told them, you wait, just relax. I'll build it and then hand over the keys to you. And by the grace of God, it was built. Bishop Toto came to dedicate it, and the keys were handed over to that church, and they are worshiping in it till today. Interesting.
Nice vision you had, a nice plan you have for a 50th birthday. Some will probably choose, but like I said, we'll just maybe have a party and then that is it. And whatever donation comes, I'll spend with myself and then my family at the end of the day. We will look into some of these things that we see with men in clerical in recent times. But kudos to you for the good work done, that you've added on to the church buildings and then the numbers. Kudos to you on that one. There in that very period, was the idea to have a new Archdeaconry, where it is going to be called the Accra Northeast Archdeaconry, a baby Archdeaconry. That will see to it that the boundaries between Accra North and then Accra East to be fairly catered for, and then there will be an expansion there, an idea by Bishop Toto. And he nominated you, and later you were installed to be the very first venerable archdeacon for this new Archdeaconry. It came with so much responsibilities. How did it fare?
It went very well. I was then looking after Christ Church, which is a big church. I was also lecturing the Trinity Theological Seminary, which is also a huge work. And I had the responsibility also to build this Archdeaconry. At some point, the Bishop Toto, decided that I should be a detached archdeacon so that I can concentrate a lot on that work, which was excellent, because then it gave me the time to move from church to church and do all kinds of things. But as archdeacon, what I realized was that you go to an outstation and you ask how many years have this been here, over 50 years, over 60 years, and you have children, still have children. So the question is, and there are so many of them, the question was then, how do we build this these small churches to also be parishes. Now, I realize that when people are sent to small churches like that, they suffer a lot in terms of finance. So I decided every outstation in the Tema Archdeaconry must be hooked to a parish.
As in the Accra East?
Accra East, Accra Northeast.
It's fine.
Yeah, must be hooked to a parish. So, for instance, I put St. Philip in the Oyibi Road. I put St. Philip under Christ Church, Legon. I put the church in Oyibi under Otinibi under Canon Johnson Kynes Church. I tried to put all these churches under some of the churches, and then what I did was to ask those churches to support the clergy who are put there. So I came to see the bishop. I said these churches need clergy. So you send the clergy there. The parishes under which they are serving will look after them. So that was how a lot of these churches, we had people looking at their clergy, looking after them, and within a short time they started growing.
I think that it's the same modality happening with St. Stephen Cathedral, which was under
Yes.
Christ.
Yes, and then Christ Church Legon, and then also in Aboom also, Christ Church Legon also supported a lot. So before I left, in fact, I decided that Katapo should be put under Christ Church Legon.
I was there when the church was also opened. It's a fine place, and there's a sword cutting for the main building to be done. And I think that I saw your name on the tab on the wall. Yes, that you did well yourself with Otin Mensah. Really championed that cause to take place. It's a good one for yourself as an archdeacon.
Yeah, so that was, if you like, the highlight of mine, to make sure that the smaller churches grow and that those who are sent there are not disadvantaged. They are also supported by the various parishes, in addition to the salaries that they were getting also from the diocese.
I think that now the initiative has cut across to other archdeaconries too.
Yes.
Is helping. Helpful now. Because for the last 2 ordinations I've seen, the priests are being posted to some of these areas.
Yes.
But are being put under a particular parish where
yes.
all this goes into it. Good one there. Now we are going to zoom our focus into deanship. The dean. And we'll be moving to your stall in from now. Did it come to you as a surprise that the then Venerable Toto, a candidate you contested with to become the diocesan bishop, will nominate and then appoint you subsequently to become the dean, who will now become the leader of the house of clergy? In other jurisdictions where we don't have a vicar or an assistant bishop or a suffragan bishop, it's more of like the next in command. Did it come to you as a surprise?
Yes and no. No, in the sense that in Archbishop Akrofe's time, Professor Pobi had called me one day and said they wanted me to be the dean of the cathedral. But I was given a condition, and the condition was that when I became the dean of the cathedral, I couldn't continue my education. And, you know, right from my ministry in the Anglican Church, my prayer to God is that let me rise. And I was rising. And so, and I value education. And so I was asked to go and think about it, to choose between education and the deanship. And after discussing with my wife, praying over it, etc., I came back to Professor Pobi and told him I prefer education. And that was how Dean Ado then was made the dean. But then Dean Ado moved on to St. Nicholas Theological Seminary. Dean Saki was appointed, but Dean Saki had a short time to go on retirement. And so getting to his retirement, you know, when oppositions are about to open, the clergy begin to talk. And then the laity also begin to talk and decide who should be the person. And this person will say this, this person will say, but a lot of the people kept coming back to me and saying, you look like somebody God will choose to be the dean of the cathedral. Now, after our election, I had gone to Bishop Toto, who was my best man at my wedding. I had gone to him and told him, look, if the election is over, I'm willing to do anything to support your ministry. And I'm saying this from the depth of my heart. So he believed in what I told him. And so he made me chairman of some committees, including the Commission on Ministry. And so when the time for the deanship arrived, he didn't call me to say, I'll make you the dean. I had these people saying, yeah, that you look like, it looks like you'll be appointed. I said, but the bishop didn't call me and say, I want to make you a dean. He announced it suddenly. We knew it was going to come at the synod. And when he mentioned the name, it was me. And the applause to point to the fact that a majority of people thought that I should be the person. The same way that at that time, majority of people thought that I should be the dean. And so then I was called and then told, I'm giving you a condition. The same way, a lot of people thought, I don't know what they saw, but a lot of people thought that I should be the dean. And so they were not surprised when I was made the dean.
Dean, let's move to your story. Your role as dean, did it come with that closeness that you expect it to take place between yourself and your fellow clergy?
Yes. At that time, I had gained a lot of friendship with the clergy. And a lot of the young clergy also were people I taught at the Trinity Theological Seminary. And we had an excellent rapport when they were ordinands in the seminary. And so there was so many of them that look up to me as a senior priest whom they could go to and ask for advice, etc. And as an Archdeacon of Accra Northeast also, I work with a lot of the clergy, and I had an excellent rapport with the clergy. And so to become the dean and also the chairman of the clergy, it wasn't that difficult. In every institution, we have seniors, and one person will be chosen who there may be others who are even older in terms of ministry. But they all worked together with me. All the Archdeacons actually worked together with me. They supported me. In our system, when you are sitting there as the chairman of the House of Clergy, the Archdeacons are around you. And so they were around me, giving me advice and all that. And so it was an excellent time, and a time that I also instituted something that was very important for me, that we learn from each other. So at every clergy meeting, I sourced for a clergy who is doing very well where he is, and to come and tell us, what are you doing, what can we learn, almost every meeting. I also instituted a time where we spend at least 30 minutes in prayer before the meeting begins. Worship and prayer before the meeting began. And almost everybody was happy and wanted to be part of that system.
As dean and being the leader or the chair of the House of Clergy, people from afar before you becoming dean saw you to be a strict disciplinarian. And somebody that from our initial conversation has made it clear that your lecture cuts across and even involves issue on having a moral conduct, so far as you've decided to become a man of God. So we expect that the few red flags or eyebrows that have been raised on some few priests that have come to your level would hear strict or stricter sanctions being suggested from your part to the diocesan for it to be done. But it seems what we hear is ashushwano of that sort of conversation. Is that what it is?
Now, I am a moral philosopher, and I teach morality. And so if I teach students or ordinands morality and prepare them for the church, I must be first living what I teach. And so that also plays into discipline. That when we decide that we want to do something, let's do it. Once we have made, in fact, when I came to the cathedral, the first council meeting, I told everybody that when we decide that this is the way we are going, you might not like it, but once majority have decided this is the way we want to go, let's go that way. And it's very, very important. So for instance, somebody was telling me today on the consecration day, the 6 a.m. service that people are going to do, some of them will not come. And I said, look, that's why we are having a 6 in the morning. If you decide, or a lot of people decide not to come, they must be sanctioned. I'm a disciplinary person. My boys had a lot of strong hands. By God's grace, they have grown and they are on their own doing very well. But I believe that when we take a decision, let's go on with the decision. And so people tend to say, oh, this guy, if we elect him, and I heard that a lot, when the elections, the 2 other elections were coming before this 3rd one, when we elect him, he will be too strict, etc. But I live a certain way by the grace of God. And so I wanted people around me also to be moral. I want people I work with also to be serious with the work that they do. When I want something, I believe strongly that God wants us to do something, I want it to be done because this is coming from God. And so that is how people tend to say that I am a very strong-hand person. I often say that in the work of God, if you come into the work of God or you are working with me and you destroy the worship for me, I will not allow it. I can bend my neck where I haven't thought about something or something is not part of the plan and somebody wants us to add it to the plan. I look at it, it will add to a beautiful service, I add it to it. I don't say that, oh, we didn't plan it, so that let's not add it to it. I add it to it, etc. But anything that would destroy the service or anyone would do to destroy the service, I'm after you. And I don't want that to happen. So that is how some people tend to say that I'm too much a strong hand person.
Now, when you say that, do you feel bad about it, or you feel that that is you? They are defining you?
I don't feel bad about it because eventually a lot of people I've treated that way came back to me that they've learned a lot from me by the way I was straight and I wanted us to go in a certain direction, and we all went to that direction. If you don't want to go in that direction, you might as well go and work in another Archdeaconry, for instance, when I was an Archdeacon. But once you are part of the Archdeaconry, let's discuss what we want to do. This is the vision. Let's discuss it. Let's own it. Let's go out and do it. So that when 2 or 3 don't want to do it, then becomes a problem. Like cell groups. I wanted all the churches within the Archdeaconry to do a cell group. Because that grows the church and that forms churches. And so those who are not doing it, I kept telling them that you need to do it. It's very, very important.
If I put in perspective your marks as a canon, the Dodowa parish will speak for itself. When we come to the fact that you were the very first Archdeacon for Accra Northeast, the other things to speak for itself. Now, as the dean of the cathedral, I saw the office you came to inherit. And just within some short while, the changes you're able to make for the dean's office. What other notable things can you say that, to the glory of God, you've added up to the list that as we're about to rise from this chair, in some few days to come, to become Suffragan, you can say that I was able to see to it that A, B, C, or these few things were done under my tenure as the dean of the cathedral.
All right, now when I was appointed a dean and I moved in, there was a lot of tension because there had been a lot of quarrels between clergy and laity, etc. And there was a lot of tension when I took over. But like I do everywhere, I say the one I took over from had finished his term. I don't want us to bring him into anything anymore. Whatever had happened in the past, I want it to stay in the past. And so I took a 1 whole month where every Sunday I preach in all 3 services. Just to be able to calm down people's nerves, let people know that we are in a new era and we have to move forward together as a deanery. And so gradually, as we speak now, there is no tension anymore. I often tell people Mayibo should not be part of the system, the system in the cathedral anymore. Another thing that when I came I realized was that we had or we have a morning mass from Monday through Saturday, and we're having it at 5:30 in the morning. And I said to the clergy that how many of your children will wake up 5:30 in the morning? I mean, you don't just wake up at 5:30. If you want to come to the service, you must wake up at least an hour before the time. And members, if they want to come, at least they must wake up at times even more than 1 hour, because in addition to preparing themselves, etc., to come, they have to walk to come or take vehicle to come. All that count into, so people will wake up 4 a.m., 4:30 a.m. to prepare to come to the 5:30 a.m. service. So I said, in St. Stephen, I did it 6:15 to 7:15, and from there, people went to work. In Christ Church, I also did it the same way, 6:15 to 7:15, and people went to work from there. And there were so many people. So why don't we change also into 6:15 here to 7:15? There were a lot of some skirmishes and disagreements, etc. But I went to the congregation. Normally, there were about 2 or 3 people there constantly at the 5:30 mass. And I said to them, look, I think that the 5:30 is too early for the congregation, for our children, etc. So let us change the time. He said, oh, no, we know about that, and the rest. But I felt that it had happened somewhere else and worked, and it will work here too. So together with the clergy, we started announcing that the time now will change from 5:30 to 6:15 in the morning. And then eventually we started. And now we don't have only 2 or 3 people in the chapel anymore. We have more than 10 people, etc., coming to these services. And people are easily able to do requiem masses in the service and do all kinds of things in the service, birthdays, etc., because it's not too early anymore. So that has also changed the face of the mass that we do. I also realize that on Sundays, all of us have to come to the 6:30 a.m. service. All of us have to come to the 9 o'clock service, and especially also the 10 o'clock service. All of us had to be there. And I said, look, even if all of us are here, this is a very short place, and all of us can serve communion or things like that. Everybody comes there. So one person should be on duty, and the person is responsible for the service. The rest can either come or not come. And so if you have other things to do, like you are not preaching that day, for instance, you can go to see communion. Sunday is always a free road. So if you have nothing to do, or you are only doing the 6:30 a.m. service, when you finish, you can go to communion. You can do things. Outstation, the outstation, etc. I also decided that the outstation, all of us clergy here must go to the outstation, including the dean. So we were taking turns. I made them make a roster. I was part of the roster. We were taking turns to go to Manhia and St. Sylvester. So these are some of the changes that I brought, and people were very happy. One of the things that they were very happy with was that I decided that everything must be announced in terms of money. So car park, whatever we get during the week must be announced. Everything, tables and chairs, everything must be announced so that they know what we... Yes, and the first day, everything was announced. There was a clap here, and they loved it. And so a lot of changes have taken place. I still look forward to some changes. I tell myself there's so many electrical gadgets and so many wires running on the wall. I want us to hide all those things. I want a chandelier.
Yes, a few days that you'll be off as in you want all these things.
Yeah, no, before I was elected, I wanted a chandelier. And the chandelier that I went to look at is one is 52,000 Ghana cedis, another 60,000 Ghana cedis. I said we must buy an expensive chandelier for the cathedral. I said the cathedral deserves such a thing. So there are plans to beautify, if you like, the cathedral. I made sure that the outside it was painted because it was so dirty. And just walking into, and we are now doing the fence walls, etc.
Yes,
yes.
Associations being pulled.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so we are on the road to beautifying the cathedral when this election took place.
Finally, as Dean, where we've already hinted on your automatic role as the leader or the house of clergy, what are some of the strides you've also made there? That there are a few things you came to see that probably you've proposed that has maybe changed the face of the narrative so far as the house of clergy is concerned. Fortunately for you, it seems you came to see COVID. So the long sittings of synod, among other things, came with this revised means where the houses would have to sit proud before the main sitting. It comes to one day. So we're able to successfully close the 23rd section of synod and close open 24th with the COVID modalities.
Yeah.
This is very pragmatic as far as synod is concerned. But aside that, when it comes to first I used to hear that the meetings were monthly. It became 6 months, it became 3 months or quarterly. Now I don't know what the months are now, but when do you meet and what strides have you made so far as the house of clergy is concerned?
Well, they decided to, before I became the dean, they were meeting twice in once in 2 months, yes. Once in 2 months, and it still continues like that. As I said earlier on, I tried to bring some ideas into the clergy meeting that will let us learn from each other. If you are doing very well somewhere, come and tell us what you are doing so that we also learn from what is going on. And it still continues, actually. People come and tell us every meeting. I choose somebody to come and tell us what is going on. Because of COVID, we decided to move the meetings from here to St. Paul La because they have a bigger space for us to space within that place. And all through my leadership of the clergy, house of clergy, the meetings had been wonderful. People, they attend in their numbers. And I've enjoyed leading the house of clergy, and I cooperated a lot with the bishop. Any time we are meeting, I wanted him to see the agenda, whether he has something to tell us, etc. If he has something to tell us, come and say it before we even begin the other things, etc. So the bishop, I've cooperated a lot with the bishop, and he has also supported me in this particular leadership role, and it's gone very, very well.
All right, kudos to you, and congratulations again on your tenure as dean. Now that we rise and enter into your future of Suffragan, what word would you give to the one to succeed you and succeed this stall in the future as the dean of the cathedral and also the leader of the house of clergy?
Now, working here as the dean is a hard work. The new dean must pray a lot and must seek the face of God in this particular leadership here. We have majority of Ghans here. Ghans form about 60 to 70% of the congregation here. And Ghans are tough. And so if you are a leader, you are a dean of the cathedral where you have lots of Ghans, you also have to be very strong. and you must be able to decide this is where we want to go, or this can't happen, this can happen. You were there this afternoon when the bishop came to me and said, look, you have taken a decision and you don't want to bend, but because the person has done so and so. It's like the Jews going to Jesus Christ and saying to him, this person had actually built a church for us, so please go out of your way to do what he wants to be done. And the same way the bishop came and said, look, this guy has done so much, so why don't we do something special for him? I said, fine, I think that is a good thing, let's go ahead and do it. My first response to the bishop is that you are opening the floodgates for others to ask to also come. So it's a tough job. And you must be tough, and you must be strong, but strong spiritually. If you take the congregation where the Holy Spirit wants them to go, they will follow you, because they will see it, that you genuinely want to take them where. In fact, when I came, my first message to them was that I've been sent here as the dean to prepare them for heaven.
I think that this message cuts across.
Yeah.
Every parish you go.
Yes. And somebody was reminding me about that recently. But it is very important that you know your mission and you don't lose focus of your mission. So in addition to trying to beautify the place, you have a vision and a focus. You must not lose the focus. So the new dean should be focused. And if this is where you feel that the Holy Spirit is leading the church at this time, speak to them, convince them about it, and let's move forward with that. For instance, there's a Wednesday service that goes on. And then I realize, in fact, that we go and then we do the Angelos, and then we read the Bible. And so people were not coming. And so I said, look, let's do it purely prayer meeting. Where everybody will come and pour out their hearts to the people. So you need to be dreaming if you'll be successful. And by God's grace, I've dreamed in all the parishes that I had been to. In fact, there was a particular parish that I want them to do Bible studies. They weren't doing it. They don't want to do it. I said, all right, okay. This one is not Bible studies. It is journey through the Bible. And so let's come journey through the Bible. And all of a sudden, you have plenty of people coming to journey through the Bible. So you need the wisdom of God as you lead them.
All right, so that is to the new dean. That hopefully, probably after the consecration of the Suffragan bishop, we might be coming here again to see whom the diocesan bishop shall nominate to become the successor of Dean Neequaye here. We are moving out to see the dream that the Suffragan bishop-elect holds for the new mandate he's been given, and how he's also going to see to it that they will journey into a proper creation of a Tema diocese. And I hope that in so doing, we can have all the conversation we need to have so far as to get a proper and see how the Tema will be created.
Yeah, we look forward to that, and we hope that it will be wonderful.
Behold, a great prelate.
So we heard the dean is live as the canon, is live to as Archdeacon for Accra Northeast, and the dean too of the Cathedral, and is advised to the one to succeed him by divine grace. Now, let's talk into becoming a Suffragan bishop. Dean, what informed your decision this time around, again, to contest for Suffragan bishop? When you contested Archbishop Akrofi as bishop of the diocese, lost the election, then decided again to go for a round 2 with the incumbent diocesan, Bishop Toto. Lost the election. From where I come from, they'll tell me that, oh, boy, I know take cry. But you manned up courage. What really informed you to say that I'll contest again? And hopefully to even add that this time around, I know that I will win.
Almost all the parishes that I had looked after, one way or the other, somebody will come to me and say, you will be a bishop one day. From Pram, Bartholomew, and all through my ministry, people came to me and said, you will be a bishop. Now, at the time that Bishop Akrofi became the bishop, I was nominated. I think there was, at that time, we were only 2. And so it was a straight election. He was very experienced, and he had been called, if you like. In the same way, he had also been told by so many other people that he would be a bishop one day, and it was his time. And so it was a straightforward election. He won hands down. Without going through all the nitty-gritties to test authority, he won it straight away. Because I was in a chaplain at Achimota School then, I'm very young. And this was a very experienced priest who had been in Accra Church and had been in the Cathedral for several years. And so he was a seasoned priest, and I was no match. So that ended. But then even after that, the parishes that I kept moving from, people still kept telling me that I look like somebody who will be a bishop one day. And so when Bishop Akrofi finished his term and he was going, I think we were asked to, those who want to stand, those who felt called. And at that time, so many people again kept telling me, so I felt called also. And so about 10 people, if you can remember, 10 people also gave their names. And so the nominating committee went away with those names. And then at Synod, they came out with 3 names. Myself, Bishop Toto, and then Dean Ado. And so the election took place. There was a first round, and then Dean Ado, who had the list votes, was taken out, and it was left with me and Bishop Toto, then Venerable Toto. And went to a 4th round before he eventually won it.
It was keenly contested, right?
Yes. After that, somebody came to me and said, look, you don't worry, you'll be the bishop of Tema. And I said, I don't want to be a bishop. I had enough. And I didn't.
You have been dismayed.
Yes. So I didn't really want to go on anymore. What I told myself, whatever God wanted me to do as a priest, I would do it. Not necessarily to be a bishop before you can do your work. And so I settled down to working. So I was then at the Trinity Theological Seminary full-time, and also at Christ Church, Legon, as their priest. But even there, so many of them kept telling me that I look like somebody God who called into the bishopric. To the extent that after this election, somebody came to me and said, look, we at Christ Church, we sat down and discussed you that this guy has to be a bishop, but where is the door going to open? So when the time came, Bishop Toto declared that he wanted Tema to be carved out. It was another opportunity to be a bishop, if you like. And people kept telling me, put your name forward, etc. You don't have to give up, put your name forward, etc. So eventually, I said yes to it. I'm putting my name forward. And then eventually, three of us, myself, Venerable Telo Nelson, and also Venerable Hansen Adi. Venerable Hansen Adi, I was his best man at his wedding. Venerable Telo Nelson had virtually become like a brother to me. We did everything together. Even when my son was going to marry, I went with him as a family member. The knocking, the family wanted to see us. They didn't want any drink, anything. They just wanted sitting together to be the knocking. And it was my brother, Selwyn Okai, and then Telo Nelson that I actually sent. The three of us went. So Telo Nelson was also very, very close friend of mine. And so when it came out and it was the three of us, it was very difficult.
Fast forward, it comes to that point. I'm sure probably you heard the rumor, even though prior to the synod, the special synod for the election, you were in retreat. There was a fourth person who appeared, which people had doubt that how come that they filed nominations to be Suffragan bishop. Did you preempt it that okay, maybe at this point, maybe senior priests in that level, though anybody of 6 years standing in the ministry could nominate himself, but you were expecting that probably those that you were at the forefront in the likes of probably the venerables and maybe a canon possible coming up. Were you surprised to see the other day when you entered into retreat or even heard that he was part of the
Yeah, in fact, when I heard that he had also put his name forward, I called him and asked him whether what I was hearing was true. And he said yes, and that he felt also that God was calling him to the bishopric. So I left it, but I was very surprised. Very surprised because the Eddie Adade was virtually my son at St. Stephen Anglican Church in Tema. He, in the latter days of his going to ministry, he actually lived with us. When he got married, they came to live with us. I contested him into the ministry, and so I was very surprised that he could file against me. But again, he said, when I called him, he said he felt God was calling him. I said, that's fine. If God was calling you, then leave your name there, go for it. So that was a big surprise for me. I was wondering, is it a ploy? Is he in because he has been asked to come in to save a situation? I was turning around so much.
They felt that he was in to save a situation because the provincial canon stated clearly that the nominating committee will come with two and not more than three.
Yeah.
So not less than two and not more than three.
Yes.
So obviously, 20 people can bring in their names, but the nominating committee will then go and see and bring 2 to 3.
Yes.
So at a point we felt maybe he was there to save a situation, but what happened had to happen.
Yeah, of course. That was the same thing I thought. I only discussed with my wife. But I thought that 3 of us were going. If they decide to bring only 2, then one will be out. So if they decide to bring 3, then that's okay. But then if one person comes in like that, then, and it's obvious that when one is being taken out, he is the person who is going to be taken out. It was obvious. So my contention was that, was he being used so that somebody can go through? That was my analysis of the situation. But again,
it didn't surprise you when the nominating committee brought themselves Venerable Tole Nelson and Venerable Anson Ade as the selected people up for election. You're not surprised about
almost everybody knew that that was going to happen. That he was the one who was going to take out, and then the 3 can be. It was an open secret that was going to happen. And so it wasn't a surprise when it happened that he had been actually taken out.
Before we come to your documentation that you filed to the nominating committee that was read by her leadership with the Chancellor on some of the visions you had for Tema, among other things, would you call the introduction of a rather surprising social media presence prior to the election day and even maybe the early mornings of campaign flyers, campaign messages, what we feel is a bit on Anglican in this particular selection of Suffragan bishop? I believe your minds were averted to it. You saw it, and even if you didn't see it because you were in retreat, on the day of the synod, the Chancellor made mention of it that it shouldn't have happened.
This is a spiritual thing. And so the campaigning and the media, etc., shouldn't have happened. We should have actually left it to the Holy Spirit to actually choose the one he had to choose. And so it was a big surprise. So many people commented on it. But it was a time also that people kept coming to me and saying, we don't see you do anything. You must do something. To the extent that, so that also actually pushed me into coming out with my CV. I said, I don't want anything else to be done. Just let people read my CV and see who is standing. So my CV came out, you see, and went out. But seriously, that shouldn't have been the case. We should have let it in the hands of God. We should have let the Holy Spirit choose his own person, and then we move on like that. Because of what happened before the elections, so many quarrels took place. To the extent that somebody will call someone and said, you said I've said this, I haven't said it, and quarrels, and so many things happened. To the extent, in fact, that somebody called me from abroad. I don't want to mention the place, but abroad, and said, no, those who are living abroad get to know a lot of the stories before before we even get to know. He said to me, look, I've spoken to one of the candidates, and you don't have to worry yourself. I think that candidate has won. And so you don't have to worry yourself. In fact, to the extent that a priest came to sit in front of me and said to me, he has heard that this candidate has actually won so many people already. They have spoken to everybody, etc. And their campaign is so much that he doesn't want me to be disgraced. So I should withdraw. Though he was, and fortunately when he was saying that, my son was also there, my second boy was also there, and he was asking me to withdraw. And I told him that, look, even though I'm not campaigning, I know this is my time. And I know a lot of the clergy are behind me. If you like, my campaign was that I told the clergy, and majority of whom were behind me secretly, that you must speak to your synod delegates and tell them about me. But I'm not going out to do anything. And so I was very confident that I had so many people behind me. There were people who were saying, okay, maybe you have the priests, but this other person had the laity. And the laity is about 300, the priest is only about 120, and so you still not win. But I was very sure that that was the time. And I was very confident that I was going to win in spite of what was going on. But you know, you are a human being, and so on the day of the election, you see people talking, etc., and people talking to each other, etc., and you are not sure where you stand until the election took place and the first results came out, and I had 198 votes. Venerable Nelson had 69 votes, and then Venerable Hansen Ade got 34 votes. And so Venerable Hansen Ade had to bow out, and then the two of us were left, and then went on. In fact, the 198 was short of 4 to get the 3 quarters. So we had to go on again. And then when the results came this time round, I got 240 votes as against 52 votes. So it was very clear that God this time had spoken and had chosen me.
All right, it's clear that this time God has spoken and chosen him. This quick set is going very quick. When we come back, the Suffragan Bishop-elect will tell us the enumerated policies that he attached to his CV when presenting to the nominating committee, that maybe those who heard on the side of probably both the House of Clergy and then the House of Laity on that day added up to this smiling victory, because I can see the dean smiling when he made mention of the second votes, about over 200 there. We'll be right back. Welcome back from the tender. Still having a conversation with the Lord Suffragan Bishop in the making in some few days to come, on the 30th of January 2022, 8:30 a.m. at the consecration grounds. At the latter part of this interview, we'll be speaking about that too. Your bulletins. People say that, okay, it's clear cut that this presentation has been read of the candidates signifies that the candidate has either worked more in the area to be carved and understand what the mandate is supposed to be. So, if you can just throw light on the pointed or itemized things on the face of the document presented to the nominating committee that you intend to achieve if Tema fully is being carved out.
Now, when the nominating committee asks for a document that outlines your vision, I put together visions that I had actually thought about already and even presented to Synod. But at this time, I had to concretize all the vision and make sure that it fits into Tema. In fact, I work in Tema for 7 years, and so I know the terrain. But forming a diocese or creating a diocese involves a lot. So I tried to come out with 6 marks of mission. And the 6 marks of mission were actually supposed to guide me if I was elected or am elected to do this work that the church wanted me to do in Tema, or wanted a person to do in Tema. So I first of all dwelt on the vision of the church, which comes from the Great Commission. Go out and win souls to the church. So the first mark of mission that I put out is go out and win souls into the kingdom, beginning from Tema. So that was the first one. The first one has to catch the vision of Jesus Christ, that his disciples must go out beginning from Jerusalem and Judea and to the uttermost part of the world. So this vision must begin from Tema and then can go outward into other parts of Ghana, if you like, out into the world. And I'll tell you where the world actually comes in. So that was the first one. And then the second mark of mission has to do with discipleship and evangelism. They are key. That when people come to Christ, they must be prepared and get to know that their duty is also to multiply the kingdom of God. So discipleship was supposed to prepare people and then to go out. So discipleship and evangelism. And then moving on from there, I said it is going to be a diocese with a face on finance, meaning that we have to try and look at the traditional way of raising funds, and that is through the collections, church dues, etc., tithe, etc. But also we must also look at the non-traditional way of raising funds, and this recently I'm pushing more into that particular heading, where I'm looking at the diocese coming out to do some of the things that earn money very quickly, in terms of coming out with a water project, do our own water, and then come out with a shop that will sell iron rods, cement, all kinds of, yes, something that is needed. And so this water shop will be there, and the water, in addition to the water, that particular shop will also sell minerals, all kinds of things to the public. And so that also have been added on to the second point. Under the second point also, I want the situation where the diocese can join hands with the province. The province had gone into a situation where they want to go into insurance. What can we as a diocese also do to support that, and also to earn something from what they are also earning? They've also decided to go into publishing, and I think that it is wise not to go solo, but also to join our shoulders with them to do it a big way. And so that also is another area where I'm looking into, and don't want to go alone because they have taken the lead. I want to support what they are doing to get something out of it. In addition to it, you know, when you are carving out a diocese, the existing diocese, there may be certain businesses going on which the carved out diocese will also have interest in. And so there are so many things that also we want to join hands with the Accra diocese when the diocese is created to do business. But that is under finance, how to raise funds to build churches, to do evangelism, to rent places for people who have to go on and rent places. And I've also been praying seriously that God will lead people or touch people's hearts who will donate houses to be mission houses, who will donate land to be places where we'll have new churches, etc. And so that is under the finance, and then also the second and the third points. Then moving on from there, I said the fourth one should be language paradigm. You know, language is very, very important, and if we will be very effective, we must be seen to be using the language of the people we are ministering to. So I made that one of the marks of mission because I think it's very, very important that we look at our services, even the musicians, to try and come out with new hymns in the local languages that we find ourselves. In Tema, you have the Ga and the Akan especially. Those two are key. So how do we have the services in the Ga language? How do we have the services in the Akan language? People say that the Twi is the most easiest for people to get into, etc. So is it the Twi that we want to use? For me, the Akan language that I love so much because it's so musical is the Fanti language. Missing there, me that one I say, yes. You know, I want to have a 3-story building. It can go more than that, but that is what I intend doing. I've gone out to the US to talk to a particular church. I don't want to mention it now, but a particular church which is very, very rich and is willing to actually support in that particular project. And as part of that project, I want to also have a library, a public library, by a theology library, one that ministers within Tema or elsewhere can walk in. You have all the expository books, you have all the sermon preparatory books, you have almost everything that you need. If you are studying theology, there's so much there for you to come and look at and study, etc. Something that will serve the churches in the community. And attached to that also will be a theological institution. I was struggling whether to join hands with the lay ministerial school, but the lay ministerial school is far from Tema. And I remember Tema, they always complained it was taken over, and one of the classrooms, they started it there, it died, etc. I want something that Tema Diocese, when it's created, can also own. So is going to be a school of discipleship and evangelism. Now, where the international part comes in is that it's going to be a school that will train anybody who wants to come and train, and will bring all over. And also, it will train people that will go outside the country, eventually outside the country, to work in other churches, etc. So it's a vision for Tema and outside Tema.
Dean, I'm grateful with this mission marks that you've been able to expound a bit for us. What I find a bit worrisome is timing. Timing in the sense that the provincial constitution gives us an understanding of when what comes in, or what bishops or the assistants are mandated to do. That assistant bishops are normally people that are even are retired from the system, or have served or resigned at a while, and still serve in episcopal capacities when it comes to House of Bishops.
Yeah.
Then it goes further to give us on who coadjutant bishops are, and then suffragan bishops, who are elected with a specific mandate. Taking inspiration from that and coming to look at the opening of the 24th section synod, where the diocesan intimated that there's a need to create Tema diocese for evangelism and church expansion purposes. And my understanding is that you now have 2 years to now look at the visibility of it and then come back to REV'D. With all this large and long vision of a Tema that will look beautiful for not only yourself, but for the Christian faithfuls in Tema. And for even we in Accra that will be, we are betting this Tema will be very beautiful for us. Is the time enough?
Well, now, all that I'm elaborating on is when the diocese is created, because at the initial stages, we will still work with the constitution and the 5 marks of mission of the Accra diocese. And all that I'm saying now is when the diocese is created, you see. But even before my consecration, I've started groundwork as to where am I going to work from. What are the things we need to qualify? And when you look at Tema, in terms of things needed to qualify, Tema is, you need 5 parishes. And Tema has more than 8 parishes to 10 parishes. So that is a qualification. When you talk about money, we are in Corona time, but Tema will be able to stand on its own where money is concerned, looking after a bishop and then looking after his own clergy, etc. Tema will be able to do that easily. There are other qualifications. You must also have an office. And so even before my consecration, I'd gone to the St. Matthew under St. Albans, which may, let me just may at this stage, it's not certain yet, but may be the cathedral of this new diocese to look for offices there, and they have offices there that I can begin from. Only yesterday I spoke to somebody about finishing the office, and he said, look, let's go there. Once I see the space, I know what to do. And so immediately after my consecration, and the preparatory grounds are already started. People will have to come, a group will have to come from the province to actually inspect. And these are the things, your office, the vehicle, the finance, those are the things they are going to look at. And where is going to be your head office? Do you have land for things like that? And there is land in Tema. It is land, yes. Yes. Yes, there is land in Tema. So the immediate things I need to do, or we need to do. You know, there's a committee in place, creation of Tema committee in place. I'd gone to see them, had a meeting with them, giving them my vision, etc. But it's a committee also that is making sure that all the conditions are met within the shortest possible time.
Believe that the conditions will be met.
Sure, the conditions will be met. Being Tema and looking at other places where the carvings were done and they were able to meet the condition. If, for instance, Dunkwa was able to meet the condition, if Kumasi Mampong was able to meet the condition, other places were able to meet the condition, Tema will be able to meet.
The oldest Archdeaconry,
yes,
in Accra.
Yes,
anyway.
Yes.
Let's come to the interim, right after consecration, and I put the position of a Suffragan bishop now in perspective.
Yeah.
And I look at what my little readings have exposed me to, and the little that probably maybe conversations was maybe currently the IPG. Archbishop who started as a Suffragan bishop,
yes,
became the assistant bishop and then Archbishop now, will say that, okay, then you are going to work directly under the supervision of the assistant bishop.
Yes.
What are some of the, maybe your conversation was maybe the assistant, we don't know yet. What are some of the possible things, aside seeing to the possibility of creating a Tema diocese, what are the other ceremonial or administrative functions that will be attached to you, if you can make it public to us?
Well, in the first place, as a Suffragan, is the duty of the incumbent bishop to decide what you do and what you don't do, especially in the diocese that he looks after. You know, the other one is going to be created, and you have a mandate to go and create that. But in the process, you still will have to work with the incumbents. This time is the Bishop Toto. And so what he will tell me what I should be doing to support him. So that one is support of his ministry, and he will tell me, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, I want you to do that. So weekly I may come to him and say, what do you want me to do this week for you, etc. But my main duty, mandate, is to see to the creation of a Tema, and I need to concentrate a lot on the work there. So immediately, you mentioned it earlier on, immediately after my consecration, the Friday and Saturday after my consecration is a revival. The revival, initially, I wanted to use the revival to open a church in Central Tema. In Central Tema, we only have St. Alban and St. Stephen. And I wanted a third group. In fact, when I was in St. Stephen, I wanted to form one in Community 4. And so this crusade was actually going to aid in formation of a new church in Central Tema. But I had a message from the clergy and from the committee that I put together that because of the coronavirus, etc., the churches have gone down, membership have gone down, and they will be very pleased if this crusade will actually rather add on to their churches. And so when souls are won, etc., we will refer them to these churches within the vicinity. So St. Alban, St. Stephen, Christ the King, St. Nicholas, etc., to refer them to these places. So now the focus of the crusade is actually to try and revamp the churches around Tema.
So this is a 3-day crusade?
2 days. 2 days. Friday and Saturday.
Okay, so that's so Friday and Saturday. That is it 4th February?
Yeah, 4th and 5th February. Yeah.
So it's going to be in Tema. Yeah, so it's a must watch. People that are within Tema should stay in Tema and look out for the crusade. Whilst we in Accra will also journey along to come to Tema for this. We had the Archdeacon of Tema Venerable Samuel Lansin Ade there, and then the guest speaker.
Yes, Father Ben Okai.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moving from
Nigeria and Ghana, in and out there. So you also be there, and they are going to have by then Suffragan bishop to be there in present. So as you can see the flyer on the screen there, so this is when it's going to take place. Do well to be part of this crusade as well. My Lord, Suffragan bishop in the making. We've seen a clear cut of what your mandate is and your vision for the people of Tema. I would be probably shooting myself in the foot if I should ask, are the people welcoming or heralding this news properly? I'm very sure with the little engagement you've done, it is there. Within the next 2 years, when we properly decide to have a Tema diocese, then comes in a proper elections of a diocesan bishop. How is, let me probably be a prophet of not doom, but a prophet of probably light. That how would maybe a then candidate one more time who is elected as Suffragan bishop now contesting again to become the assistant bishop, journeying himself in that perspective? Because I'm not sure that after this wholesome work that you are doing, and then in 2 years when we decide that we are going to have a Tema diocese, they will be like, no, then somebody else will now come, either to come and either take the glory or put the work to a stale. How are we journeying towards that end?
Well, it's God who chooses bishops, and the first bishop of Tema will have to go through election. And so I know I have to go through another election. Of course, the Constitution says even if I lose, I am still a bishop till I retire, till I die. So we still have to have another election, and I'm looking forward to that election. And my prayer, the main prayer, is that if God has chosen me to be the bishop of Tema, then he should make it very, very easy for me to win that election. But if God has chosen somebody else, somebody appears, God has chosen somebody else, I continue with my work as a Suffragan bishop, and I'll support in any way, whether in Tema or in Accra, whatever I'm asked to do, I will do it.
For him, the ministry is about serving and always having a dream. So he's have a dream of a Tema that will be bettered, that can stand out on its own and then rise up to become a giant diocese. A Tema that is ready to also open up to businesses to support the traditional means of raking revenue for the diocese. A Tema that is looking forward to winning souls and then adding up to the number of the faithfuls. Is looking forward to a Tema that would support other dioceses and the provinces in terms of businesses, among other things. It's looking up for a Tema that language would be inherent in its celebration of a mass and even in music as well. So it's a long list that the Suffragan bishop elect now, soon to be consecrated, is having for the yet to be created Tema diocese. Then like he's explained, that the Suffragan bishop is having a specific mandate, and that mandate is to go and see to the creation of a Tema diocese. In between that 2 years, is available per constitution to be mandated by the diocesan bishop, who is currently Bishop Toto, to other functionaries and other mandates. But as it stands now, his primary focus is to see to the creation of a Tema diocese, which he feels that Tema is going to tick all the boxes of the committee that has seen to that possible, and also when the provincial committee also comes in to inspect the place or the area under culture. I'm very grateful for your time, Dean, and let me congratulate you this final time upon your consecration in some few days to come as the Suffragan bishop for the Anglican Diocese of Accra. And we look forward to interesting times ahead of us, and then we look forward to the growth of the church that has been the core mandate of even having this diocese to be created. And it's visible in your journey, that you see to it that we add up to our numbers wherever we find ourselves. I'm very, very grateful to you. What will be your final word for the Christian faithful out there? I've had a conversation with you during COVID. We've had how we can COVID-nize even our services, among other things, and what have you. But in moving forward, what is going to be your charge for Christian faithfuls out there? By larger extension, Anglican Diocese of Accra. By larger extensions, our faithfuls in Tema. And by larger extensions, the Christian community of Ghana as well. In the wake of where we have conversation of whether LGBT is going to be an issue or not. But if that should not be the conversation of center now, what is your message for the Christian faithfuls out there?
Now, all Christians are called by Christ, and our mandate, our special mandate, is to win souls. In fact, when the Holy Spirit was going to be poured out upon the disciples, the main message from God is that they will receive power after the Holy Spirit had come upon them, and they will be my witnesses in Judea, Samaria, and to the other parts of the world. So the main focus is to reduce the kingdom of the devil. That is the focus of every church here on earth. And I will employ all churches not to lose focus on that particular issue. Some say that the coming of Christ has been delayed because there's so many more people who have not given their life to Christ. And Christ wants all to be saved. And so his coming has been delayed because we are not doing what we are supposed to be doing. We are not doing much. And the Anglican Church itself also need to look at evangelism again. We don't have to put rituals in front of evangelism. Rituals is part of the mission of the church. The vision of the church is for us to go out, win souls, train them, disciple them, let them be able to go out and win souls, and the cycle continues like that. But every church has its own tradition, and every church relies on its tradition to expand and to win souls. We also have our tradition, which we call Anglicanism, and it's very, very important that we teach Anglicanism. When you look at my under discipleship, etc., I say that we must emphasize the teaching of Anglicanism at the Sunday school levels. So that by the time they even come to the church, catch them young, they will have known a lot of this. So I'm not against rituals. Rituals, Anglican Church in Ghana was formed by a high church. And high churchmanship has a lot to do with rituals. And I have survived rituals till today. And I'll continue to practice the rituals of the church, but it is very important that we don't put the cart before the horse. Evangelism is very important. Every church, there should, wherever you find yourself as a church and beyond the Anglican Church, there should be an evangelism committee working and expanding the church of God, and expanding your own churches, whether it's Presbyterian Church, Methodist Church, Pentecostal, what have you. We have a mandate to win souls, and we must never lose sight of that. So that is my message, if you like, to everyone. But it is important that as I go to Tema, I won't be able to do it alone. Nobody does it alone, and nobody is an island. I need a clergy there to work with. I need the laity there. to work. If whatever my plans are, I'll sell it to them. We'll sit down and discuss it. If they think that, oh, this one should be like this, and the rest, we will turn it around and then come out with something that we all own and become the mission of the new diocese. So I need all the clergy in Tema to come on board so that we can expand. If we will expand, we need to do a lot of decentralization. And so straight away when the diocese is formed, I may have to come out with 4 archdeaconries and 4 new archdeacons, etc., because the church has to expand. And the more you have people on the ground in the particular area, the more the church actually grows in that particular area. In fact, that is why we are forming, we are creating Tema, so that the Anglican Church in Tema.
That is it, so the church can grow. The clarion call has been given to the clergy and then the laity of Tema, that as we have a Suffragan bishop saying to the creation of Tema, he said, no one is an island. Come together to make the dream and the vision of having a Tema diocese possible. And I'm sure that with your support, we can have this thing being done possible. And Christians out there too, there's a need for us to see that our call mandate is for us to do evangelizing, win more souls for Christ, and to grow our churches too as well. And so join us on the 30th of January 2022 at 8:30 a.m. here at the Cathedral Church of the Most Holy Trinity, a church that when its first stone was laid somewhere in 1893, it was called the Trinity Church because it is the only Anglican church that is ancient when it comes to Ghana and even some parts of Africa. The consecration grounds are seen to the consecration of a lot of bishops. We've had a lot of them. And on that 30th, we are going to have an historic event when for the first time in the history of this diocese, we're having a Suffragan bishop to be consecrated on these holy grounds. Be there, and then the attire for the consecration is a diocesan cloth. If you don't have, don't be left out. Put on your white regalia and just come and then be part of this spiritual exercise. See you on the 30th of January 2022 at 8:30 a.m. The service is going to be covered live too on Adwa television. So our folks that are watching this interview outside Ghana, you won't be left out. We'll be there. And then our friends from other media scopes to also come and join to see to it that we have a solid consecration celebration or ceremony. Thanks, Dean, for your time. And then see you on the 30th in a different cassock.
All right, thank you very, very much for interviewing me, and I'm so grateful. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, stick and say, till I come here at the same time again, the name is Pepsival.
Behold, a great prelate, who in his days was pleasing